So it is an honor to be in Mackinac Island. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what a beautiful place. I can understand. We were coming over on the ferry, and we were sitting by some people, and they were coming over for their anniversary and their 25th anniversary. And what an incredibly beautiful place, and I might add, rather romantic as well. So I look forward to coming back with my wife, and she will love this. And Candace, again, I just want to say that your observation is so prescient about our country at this particular point in time as we've traveled across this great land over the course of the last 5 weeks, as we've just gotten into this campaign, and we kicked off in South Carolina, and we were traveling across the country up to New Hampshire and to Iowa and back to circled back to South Carolina. And we had the bus out, Bob, and we were making a bus tour across South Carolina. And we made an unscheduled stop, a stop in a little small town of 10 to 12,000. And people, by word of mouth, they knew that we were going to stop there. And we turned the corner into this little parking lot of a restaurant, and there was over 100 people who had turned out little homemade signs and handmade signs, welcome us to their town. And I bailed out into that crowd to shake hands. And a lady came up to me and took my hand with both of hers. And she peered in my eyes, and she was emoting two powerful emotions. At the same, it was powerful. She was so excited about this may be the one. This may be the individual who can lead our country forward as we go into this 21st century. This may be the next president of the United States. But there was also a palpable fear in her eyes. As she said, Governor, just tell me something that gives me hope that I'm going to be able to keep my little small business open. And I told her, I said, ma'am, if I'm the President of the United States, I will promise you one thing: the double boots of overtaxation and overregulation will be off of your neck. And that is what people want to hear. They want to hear that there is an individual who will go forward, who knows what they believe in, who has a record to prove up what they believe in, that will carry this country forward, that will proclaim loudly and proudly that America can be great again. And America can be great again because we need to get government's boot off the neck of the small businessmen and women all across this country, and that one size fits all out of Washington, D.C. does not work. Allow the small businessmen and women in this country to know that they're not going to be overtaxed, they're not going to be overregulated. And small businessmen and women, create that environment. That's what we've done in my home state. For that decade of the early 2000s, from 2001 through 2009, that's what we did in Texas. We put regulation on notice, or government on notice, that regulations were not going to strangle our small businesses. We understood that to have a prosperous environment required government to know its place. I don't dislike government. I just want government to work and work for us. I'd like for the federal government to do some of the things that it's actually supposed to do in the Constitution, like defend our borders. I don't want government doing a lot of things that we know it's not supposed to do, like telling us how to educate our children, having the federal government tell us how to deliver health care. There are so many things out there that the federal government is engaged in that they are not supposed to be engaged in. Allow the states to compete against each other. Listen, you all did something this last election cycle that was pretty powerful. You elected a Republican legislature and a Republican governor. I know what that means. Rick Snyder is going to be out there every day knocking on doors in Texas, is trying to get them to move jobs from Texas to Michigan. I understand that. And that is what it's supposed to be about. Last night or night before last when we were in Florida, and Rick Scott's sitting in that audience, and he's looking at me going, I'm fixing to come get your jobs. And that's what we're supposed to be all about. If government in Washington, D.C. will back away from this one-size-fits-all and the regulatory burden, think about the cost that the regulations are costing just the state of Michigan. I mean, the EPA that is run amok, that is causing so much, it's causing so much tragedy in our country. I'm talking about agencies that are killing jobs. This country needs to be energy independent. And we could do it if we didn't have a Washington bureaucrat that is stopping our industry of energy being developed all across this country. That's what Americans want to see in their next president. They want someone that will stand up and say, here is where I am going to lead this country. This is what I believe in. They want change in America. I know for a fact Americans are ready for change, and they're not talking about the rhetoric of change. They're talking about a record of change. And I'm proud of my record in Texas. As Candace shared with you, since June of 2009, full well not 40% of all the jobs created in America have been created in that state. And it didn't happen by accident. It happened because we had the courage to implement the tax and the regulatory, and I might add, the legal reforms that have allowed Texas to become one of the most competitive states in the nation. There is a reason that all of those jobs moved to Texas over the course of that decade. And it wasn't because we just got great weather in August. In spite of that July, August, and September weather, they came. And they came because they know something instinctively, that there is still a land of opportunity in this country. And one of those lands is Texas. I want to do the same thing for this country, to free this country from those regulatory hounds that cost us jobs, from the tax burden that sends the message to the small businessman and woman that you can't have a chance to succeed. You're not going to risk your capital. That's what America ought to be about, because that's what America used to be about. I want to see an America again that reflects what our parents, the idea that we would accept in this country a lesser future for our children than what we had is unacceptable. Americans will not accept that as their future. There is nothing ailing this country that the rebirth of freedom will not cure. And I'm talking about freeing this country from a federal government. You know, you can't live free. You can't live free if the federal government takes over 1/6 of our economy and drives a wedge between the patient and the doctor. You can't live free if we can't live free if our children are going to inherit this mountain of debt. You can't live free if you don't have the dignity of a job to take care of your family. As I said earlier, we do not have to accept our current circumstances. We are Americans, and we will change them. That's what we do. It is time to get America working again. Candace, you said something that was spot on a while ago. You said we don't need to select a nominee that will blur the lines between themselves and President Obama. And let me share something with you. I will draw a sharp contrast between President Obama and myself. Ronald Reagan in 1984, I believe it was, he said, "It is time for bold, bright colors, not pastels. And that is where we are again in this great country. You look at President Obama, he has failed to create jobs because he's relied on government. He's relied on people who think John Maynard Keynes' theories of economics actually work. You cannot spend yourself to prosperity, Mr. President. Those do not work. You have to inspire. You have to incentivize the private sector to create jobs. This is a president who has heaped $4 trillion of debt upon this country in 2.5 years of his presidency. On the other hand, I've signed 6 balanced budgets as I've been the governor of Texas. The first time since World War II that a governor in Texas reduced general revenue spending. I signed that budget. Thank you. He's proposed taking over health care. He's proposed mandating insurance coverage for every citizen. I want to promise you one thing today. As the husband of a nurse, as the son-in-law of an old country doctor, and as a governor of a state that understands what this Obamacare will do with this country, my first day in office will be to repeal as much of Obamacare as I can with the signing of my pen on an executive order. No other candidate on that stage has the record that I have. Yep, there may be slicker candidates and there may be smoother debaters, but I know what I believe in. And I'm going to stand on that belief every day. I will guide this country with a deep, deep rudder, knowing exactly what keeping the tax burden and the regulatory climate and having a legal system that doesn't allow for oversuing does for the small businessmen and women across this country. We will unleash that power of the American entrepreneur like it's never been released before. Again, America can be this powerful place. And I want to make one other promise to you as I finish up. Every day, as your president, I will get up and I will go to that Oval Office. And I will try to make Washington, D.C. as inconsequential in your life as I can. Every day. God bless you all, and thank you for letting me come and be a part of this today. This is a great honor for me. Thank you.